Welcome to Intentional Divorce Insights. I'm Leah Hadley, certified divorce financial analyst, accredited financial counselor, and the founder of Intentional Divorce Solutions. I'll be your guide through the complexities of divorce, finance, and emotional wellness. Join me as we uncover practical tips and empowering insights to help you navigate your divorce with clarity and intention. Hi there, and welcome back to Intentional Divorce Insights. It is my pleasure to welcome Liesel Darby back to the show. As many of you know, Liesel Darby works in our office. She is a divorce coach and mediator, and it's always good to hear from Liesel. Thanks for being here with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again.
Absolutely. So Liesel recently wrote a really interesting blog post about kind of what you deserve during the divorce process and what you deserve in mediation. And so we're going to explore this topic today. I think it's a loaded word, and I'm sure Liesel has a lot to say about it. But Liesel, what made you think about this topic specifically?
So I titled this, You Deserve More Than a Sandwich Over the Sink, because right after my divorce, I was just I didn't have any energy to take care of myself, or, I couldn't think straight. And I noticed that I was eating my quote unquote meals over the kitchen sink. And I put that in quotations because I was literally eating like a handful of sunflower seeds and maybe like one of those little clementines. And then maybe later I might have like half of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that was it. I might have some popcorn for dinner if I thought of it, but really I didn't have much of an appetite for a while. And it took me months to even realize that I was doing this, first of all. And then even once I did realize it, it took me even more time to do something about it. But eventually I got to the point where I'm like, this is ridiculous. I deserve to eat something more than just a sandwich over the kitchen sink. And I actually had to make myself at that point say, okay, I'm going to make something to eat that actually requires a plate or a bowl, some kind of a utensil, sit down at the table with a chair. And then when I got to feel better, I even added a placemat. That was a big step. But it really, it made me think about how I really I was not putting the time and effort into taking care of myself like I needed to during this time.
It's such a good point. And, so many of us become so incredibly emotionally overwhelmed that we just don't even have the extra capacity to think about some of the basics because we're just in the state of complete overwhelm.
Yeah. And I talk to so many women, and we all find ourselves going through that phase. It's,
Mhm.
it's been interesting to hear about that and how, we really fall to the bottom of the bucket. And, self-care becomes, it's kind of like a trite, almost a cliche that we kind of throw around like, oh, you got to do self-care. But it really is so important during this time, especially because, first of all, like you said, we're so overwhelmed. We're just trying to keep our head above water, really. I've heard so many people talk about, they dread opening the mail because there might be another bill from the lawyer, and it's thousands of dollars. And the other thing, life doesn't stop just because
Right.
we're having, a traumatic time in our lives. Kids still have to go to school, kids still have activities. You still have to go to work. You still have to pay your bills. You still have to, make time if you're caring for other family members. You get the cat to the vet. I mean, all these things, life doesn't stop.
Right.
And when you are just feeling so discombobulated, it's really hard to even think about when was the last time I washed my hair? I mean, really, it can get just so overwhelming. And like I said, we always talk about, oh, self-care first, but it really becomes important because during this time, you may be doing the bare minimum or even below the bare minimum during this time.
That's such a good point. And why is self-care so important during this time in particular?
Well, for one thing, our self-esteem is taking a beating during this time. I mean, I don't care if you initiated the divorce or your spouse did, or whether you have been talking about this for a long time or maybe it came out of left field, but most people are not feeling at their best when they're going through this process. Um, it's just one of these things where you can, depending on the circumstance, you might feel totally worthless. I mean, that's not uncommon. Like, why is this happening? I thought we're going to stay together forever. Or even if it was not so great, you might have been thinking, well, this is just one of those bumps in the road. We'll work through it, whatever. Again, it depends on your circumstance. Other people have had they definitely know this was a long time coming or needed to happen. But even if that's the case, you're usually not feeling like your brightest, peppiest, happiest self when you're going through this process of dividing your lives, especially if there's kids involved, because you're so worried about how's this going to affect them? Are they going to be okay? What's family? What are friends thinking? I know when I got divorced, everybody was shocked that we were getting divorced because we seemed to be a really happy couple that got along really well for a very long time. And that was true. And so even so when this happened, when my husband had an affair and that blew everything out of the water, nobody knew. Nobody knew about that. I had known it was not right for a while, but I didn't suspect that was happening. I guess maybe I should have, but speaking just from my own experience, I did not feel very good about myself during that time. So it's just, and also it also goes to put your own oxygen mask on first. Again, that's one of these sayings that we kind of throw around a while, but it is so true. If you are not taking care of yourself, you don't have anything to give to your taking care of your kids or your work. I know so many people have told me that their work just really suffered during this time. In fact, one of my really good friends told me she was so happy that she had worked for a while in her place of work because so they knew her level, what she was capable of. Because she said for the first year after her divorce, she just wasn't hitting her marks. And she's a brilliant person. And I think it was about a year later, her supervisor told her, even like, it's a good thing that we knew what your normal standard was and what the situation you were going through because you really let the ball drop in many cases. And they gave her grace for that. Some companies may not be so willing to do that, or they might not even know what you're going through in order to give you some grace during that period. But anyway, you really have to be able to at least feed your body right. If you're only eating junk food or if you're not eating hardly anything like I was, and maybe you're so focused on I just got to feed the kids, I just got to get a pizza in them tonight, you're not thinking about anything green, you're not thinking about putting together some kind of a balanced meal plan, and then you're like, I'll just eat the scraps of whatever they don't eat or I just grab a cup of yogurt or something. It's going to do more wear and tear on your body anyway.
That's a
Sleep
good point.
is so important too. I think people
Absolutely.
really underestimate that, and that's one of the first things to go when you're going through this process, and you're just so worried. You are worried about everything, and people that I know, I laid in bed nights. I was still awake at 3 a.m. It's hard to function. Your brain cannot function when you don't get enough sleep. Um, so it's basically just being able to function, and especially because you're going through this period of your life when you're making big decisions about financial things, that are going to have a big impact down the road. You can't be doing that on 2 hours of sleep a night and think you're going to be making really good decisions.
Sure. Absolutely. What are some other ways that people can take care of themselves during a divorce? I know for me, I implemented a gratitude practice that really helped me with my mindset when I was going through my divorce, which was tremendously beneficial. I really do that. I think anytime I'm going through a very difficult time, I find that really focusing on what I'm grateful for can really help shift my mindset. But what are some other ways people can take care of themselves during a
Yeah.
divorce?
Well, first of all, let me just say I love that. And I do think that's so helpful. Just as a reminder that even though things seem all doom and gloom at the time, that you can still every day find something that went right or that you really appreciate. A little bit to piggyback on that a little bit, I started doing something just within the last year called I'm looking for something to surprise and delight me every day. And that might, for some people, that might be a stretch, when, especially maybe when you're not feeling so great. But just try it and see if something, anything, can surprise and delight you. It could be just a song you hear on the radio that you haven't heard in years, or your kid came up and gave you just a kiss from out of nowhere. That's surprising and delightful. It doesn't have to be anything big, but just to change your focus a little bit. I understand you might not feel like even entertaining that thought, but it might be worth just trying and seeing what happens. But other things, just simple things. Put on some lipstick and some mascara. Just because at least then you know that you can face the day. The power of lipstick is really underrated. And I'm not talking about you have to put on a big, bold red lip, but just something that it's a really positive signal to yourself, like, I matter and I care what I look like right now. Because I'm telling you, there were times when I had to count when's the last time I took a shower? When did I wash my hair? And just to start that, to reverse that process, right? To just make sure that, yeah, okay, I know I took a shower last night. Hallelujah. I can go out to the grocery store today and I didn't feel like I have to hide. Just put some lipstick on. It will make you feel better. Another thing that, like, I had to do is I started during this time, I only wanted to wear sweats. Like, I just did not want to put on any kind of real clothes. But again, it's a psychological thing as well as a physical thing. Put on some clothes that have some snaps, zippers, buttons, something that has some structure to it. You will feel better. It's just a thing. You will feel better. And to take that a step back further, if you've been living in your pajamas, get out of your pajamas and put something else on. And tell yourself, you know what, I can have a pajama day on Sunday, or whatever it is, when you can allow yourself just to have that total relaxation. But if you're going to go out in public, and even if you're not, if you're like a stay-at-home mom or whatever, you still have to go out and get groceries. You still have to go out and get gas in your car. Put some real clothes on. Again, it's a psychological benefit, just because you're telling yourself, I matter, and I can do this. Going back to the meal thing, make yourself a nice dinner. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but at least something that would entail turning on the oven or the burners. I mean, I don't even care if you're just making some soup and a grilled cheese sandwich. Again, you're telling yourself, I matter and I deserve to be taken care of, and I'm going to take care of myself. And even better, maybe you work yourself up to, make something in the crock pot that's more than, that you can share with somebody. Invite a friend over, have her bring the wine. Just something, again, tell yourself that I do matter. Look, I have friends. Somebody else cares about me. Okay, this is good. We can share a nice meal. We can raise a glass and toast to our freedom, or just to, hey, today I made it through the day and I'm glad you're here. Whatever it is, that's a nice thing to do. Another big thing, going back to self-care, is move your body in some way. Get some exercise. I don't care if it's just a walk. Walking was really therapeutic for me during this time. I figured out it was like a 3-mile walk around my neighborhood. And so I would walk, depending on my stress level, anywhere from 3 to 12 miles a day. 12 miles didn't come up very often, thank heavens. It was when I was really stressed, and I didn't do it all at once. It might be something like, if I would go around once and I was still really in my head about something, I would go around again. So, and then depending on what happened later in the day, I might go around again. I wore holes in my Skechers. I walked so much.
My goodness.
I did. I went through 2 pairs of Skechers during like a 4-month period. But it was just good to get out of the house. It was good to get some fresh air. It was good to see some grass and trees, hear some birds. Sometimes I even stopped and talked to a neighbor. So that was good too. And it also helped me sleep. Like, sometimes I just needed to wear myself out so that I could get some sleep.
Yeah, I have started doing kickboxing a few months ago, and I find that on the days that I do kickboxing, I sleep so much better.
Yeah,
Just
it's
getting all that energy out, you know.
it is, and movement is so important because it does help you get your feelings out. It does help to move your emotions out, so you're not carrying them around in your head all the time. I want to circle back around to your gratitude journal, because that's another thing to do in order to get some good sleep. Is just get the thoughts out of your head, and it doesn't have to be the gratitude part, but that's really important too. Anything you're worried about, write it down so that it's not in your head anymore. It's actually out onto something else. That will help you to be able to go to sleep too, to release it. But the gratitude journal right before bed is really good because it puts you in a nice state of mind of positive things, right? If that's the last thing you're thinking about before you go to sleep, but this went well today. I'm so happy. I have my kids were really good today. I had a good cup of coffee. I made it to work on time. I was able to get into these jeans that I haven't tried on in years. I took a good walk. I talked to a good friend today. Anything. Write it down because now you're in a very different state of mind than if you're fretting about bills or what's your next move with in your divorce or whatever. And you
You know,
can't.
the thing that I found when I was doing the gratitude practice very consistently is it changes not just your mindset when you're doing the practice, but then you are all day looking for things that you want to include, which is
Exactly.
really cool because then it's just you're really focused on that gratitude piece, which is nice.
Yeah, it changes your filter. I talk
Yeah.
about this with my clients a lot. Is we and you can choose your filter. That's the nice thing too. So you notice people who are very gloom and doom, they're looking for things that reinforce that. And so that's what they find. When you switch over to being one in gratitude, what's going good? What am I grateful for? What do I appreciate? What surprises and delights me? You will find you are looking for those things and you will find them.
Right.
It really is kind of a magical thing. It's really cool. Anybody can do this and give it enough time and you will start to see that many, many more good things are out there than the bad things that you're kind of feeling overwhelmed with. It's such a nice counterbalance to that. Um, let's see what else. Plan something intentionally in your day to look forward to. I think that's really important. And again, anybody can do this. And whether you say, okay, I'm going to plan a nice dinner. Let's tie it all up, right? I'm going to plan a nice dinner tonight. I have the ingredients. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite this person over. I'm really looking forward to this. Or a phone call maybe with a friend you haven't talked to in a while. Or have a walk to look forward to. Even better if it's with a friend, right? Um, Maybe you have, you something on Netflix that you want to watch, have something planned so you have something to look forward to. That's really, really helpful in helping you to get through a tough day. It's just having something like that. And I think, let me see if there's anything else. And daydream. This is another thing I think you can do. Again, it's free. Anybody can do this. Let yourself just kind of stare off into space for a little bit, or if you want to journal or however you want to do this, but just kind of let your mind go to a happier place. Think about how you want your life to look on the other side of this. Um, and then another nice thing to do is anything you can do to bring that daydream into your reality, even if it's just a tiny piece of it, go ahead and start doing that. So maybe it's like, you really want to go on a nice vacation to the beach, after your divorce is final, just as a reward for yourself. You can still go right now. You can start looking at things online, nice beach destinations. You can listen to some Beach Boys. Yeah, you can, maybe start daydreaming about a bathing suit you want to be able to get in, and whatever you can do to kind of bring that vision a little bit more into your own reality at this time is helpful, and it's fun. This is supposed to be a fun thing, a little bit of relief maybe from the what's going on around you, um, And the other thing is, when you daydream about these things, you actually can make them come true. And I think it's really good to be reminded that you do have some power over things, um, even during this time when it might seem like there's a lot out of your control.
So, in addition to the divorce coaching, I know you also do quite a bit of mediation. And I think that the word deserve is very challenging when it comes to mediation, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to, who enters mediation, they always say they want a fair settlement. But as we know, the fair is in the eye of the beholder.
Mhm.
What does a person deserve during the mediation process?
Okay. So these are some basic things. You deserve to be treated with respect and civility by your spouse during this process. So, you should be able to at least talk to each other in a way that you're not calling each other names. You're not, uh, nobody's blowing their stack on things. Treating this as a business meeting and behaving in a way that shows mutual respect and the ability to listen to each other and take the other person's point of view into consideration as you're making your agreements. So that's the first thing. You deserve transparency in the whole process, and that's from everything from any kind of written communication, emails to each other to the mediator. It needs to be CC'd to everybody else too, so that there's no um, there's not even a whiff of the mediator being on one person's side or the other. And you deserve to have transparency in all the financial records. You need to have transparency in everything that's going on so that you know what you come to the mediation table with. So no hiding records, no, well, I don't want to let you know exactly what I earned last year. I don't want you to know, what's in this bank account over here. You deserve to have transparency in all of the financials during the mediation process.
And I even encourage people, if you're not getting transparency around the financials, that you may need to actually work through the court to get that information. That
Yeah.
the information is absolutely information that you're entitled to see and know in making informed decisions. And while we are obviously big proponents of mediation here, sometimes we can't get enough information in order for people to make decisions during mediation. And that's just being realistic.
That is being realistic. And also, I always tell clients, maybe have a session with you, right? To sit down with them or maybe both of them to get a clear picture of their finances, what maybe things might be valued at, or, best case scenarios. So they know what they come to with, at the mediation process. So they have some things they can move around or they can take into consideration. And, the nice thing about mediation is it's not by the law, per se. They have the ability to make deals, to make packages for each other, as long as it's fair, right?
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
but that requires being able to know what your numbers are. And then the last thing, or two things, you deserve to have your voice heard. So mediation is not about one person coming in and making demands and, the other person can't say what they want. You deserve to have your voice heard. You have the chance to always have it. You can talk. That's why we're here. I want my clients to be having conversations with each other, and that's my job, is to facilitate that. So if I notice that maybe one person is a little more overbearing or um, takes most of the time, I make sure to allow the other person an equal amount of time to say what they need to say too. So you really do deserve to have your voice heard. And the last thing I have is you deserve to make decisions about your life. So I mean, it's your life. And that is the nice thing about mediation, is the control is in your hands. It's not a judge who doesn't know your family, doesn't know your kids, doesn't know you, making life decisions, handing down the judgments that you have to abide to after your divorce. You deserve to be making these decisions for yourself. And that's why I'm such a proponent of at least trying mediation first. Anything you can get done in mediation is better than, just having a judge say, unless, of course, like we always say, there are some certain situations where Maybe you do need to be in court and have a judge rule because it might be the more fair thing that comes out of it. But try mediation first. See what you can get done there before you think you have to go to the courts to have them make decisions for you.
It's such a good point because so often people feel like if everything is not resolved in mediation, mediation has not been successful. But in reality, I mean, you can resolve a lot of the different issues, even if it's 50% of the
Yeah.
issues that get resolved, that can still save you a significant amount of time and money
Yeah.
through figuring that piece. The rest, the rest is then when you're it's just going to cost more because mediation is just a process that reduces those expenses, gets you in the room together, gets you working together toward resolution. So it's an important point that you don't have to settle everything in mediation for mediation to be successful, for sure.
Right.
Now, Liesel has a great list of journal prompts that she developed that we will include a link to in the show notes.
Okay.
So if you are looking for ways to really care for yourself during the divorce process, I think that's a fantastic resource for folks. We'll also include a link to schedule an appointment with her. So if divorce coaching or mediation is something that you are interested in, you can certainly reach out to Liesel and talk more about those options that are maybe sort of outside the traditional realm, but can really, again, save people quite a bit of time, money, and just like the emotional drag of going the more traditional route.
Yeah. And just remember, you don't have to do this alone. Right?
That's right.
It's nice to have somebody. I'm speaking now as a coach. A lot of people don't even know what a divorce coach is, but really it's about having somebody who you can bounce your ideas off of. I am an alternative dispute resolution certified divorce coach, so I can help with keeping conflict to a minimum and helping you to work through conflict with your spouse in a productive way. We do a lot of visioning about what do you want things to look like on the other side and how do you make that a reality. I can help you with propositions during mediation and parenting things. There's all kinds of things you can explore in divorce coaching that can help you, even if you're not using me specifically as your divorce mediator. So there's lots of stuff. I'd love to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us, Liesel. And for our audience, we will see you next week.
Thank you for joining me on Intentional Divorce Insights. It's a privilege to share this time with you. I hope each episode offers valuable guidance to navigate your journey. If you find our content helpful, please leave a review to help others discover the benefits of intentional decision-making in divorce. Until next time, take care and continue to embrace your path with intention.